Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined by Peter Baracchini, Dayton Reimer. Guys, we're about a few days away from the NHL playoffs, but the CHL playoffs still rolling on. We're going to talk a little bit about that. They're into their second round, as we talked a bit about last week, and lots of teams already pretty far ahead in their series, and some pretty notable standouts again this past week, and probably already to know who we're going to talk about if you've been on Twitter, if you've been following anything. But we'll talk about that in a second. But first, Peter, how's it going?
It's going great. Yeah, like you mentioned, CHL players are happening right now. NHL players are just around the corner, and Dayton, I'm just going to say this right now, best of luck. We're good friends on the air and in our chats, but we're going to be possible enemies right now. No, I'm just joking. It's going to be a fun matchup. Battle of Ontario. It's something that I've wanted to see for a long time right now, but we'll get into that later on. We're focusing on prospects right now. So, yeah, you got another great episode right now coming up.
For sure. And Dayton, how's it going?
I mean, it's pretty good. The Senators, for the first time since I've started writing about them, are in the playoffs, which is I'm gonna be a little rusty on what to do for that. What are the topics I can write about again? Usually I'm writing draft stuff here, but I still am gonna write a whole bunch of draft stuff because draft stuff is fun. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a little bit about most of the episode. We're going to talk about the NHL Central Scouting final rankings, which were released this morning as we're recording. So, and lots of risers on the list that we'll talk about. So, before that, we're going to talk about another pretty superstar. Well, he probably will be a star rookie next year. And that was Ivan Demidov made an NHL debut yesterday as we're recording. And he scored his first NHL goal in his first NHL game. That was a pretty good, nice goal, too. Unfortunately, he also had a bad moment in the game, too, where he didn't back check very well. But that's a rookie. And, I mean, we all know he has to develop his defensive game, and that will happen. So it had good and the bad, I guess, in his debut. So, Peter, I don't know if you watched the game. You watched Demidov. What'd you think about his debut in the NHL?
I did, and I saw all three plays, and like you said, he's a rookie. There are going to be some bumps and mistakes. It's his first NHL game, but the good definitely outweighed the bad in this case for the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, it took him 6 minutes into the game to get his first NHL point with that assist on Alex Newhook's goal, and then there was that fantastic, play where it just goes off the end board and he totally fools Soderblom for his first NHL goal. And you could tell that the fans loved it. He loved it. The intensity within the Bell Center was absolutely electric. Couldn't have been a better, picturesque moment for him and the Canadiens right now as they try to make that push for their playoffs. Didn't get the result that they wanted, unfortunately, and that's going to be a lingering effect right now because they're on the verge of that playoff spot. So anything can happen within these last few days. But overall, the Canadiens, the team, fans, and even Demidov have a lot to be excited for because of his play. He was very dynamic. You saw the skill in the tight spaces. You saw him open things up very well. You saw him use that agility and speed and movements to just, shake defenders off very easily and create more space for himself. Again, there was that little blemish where the back check wasn't that great. Obviously, that was the one knock on him, but you have to feel that this is a very big positive step in his first NHL game. And I was having conversations about Demidov the whole entire time with people off air and everything like that. And I said, you know what? It would surprise me if he gets a couple points, goal and assist in his first game. And I do have people that could vouch for me for that, even though I didn't get a chance to put it on to the, social media verse, but I do have people that could vouch for me for that. And lo and behold, that again, like I said, it was a picturesque, first game for Demidov, and for a team that hasn't quite had the star level talent or prospects make their way up. I know they have Caulfield, I know they have Suzuki, but what Lane Hudson's doing right now is all-time elite. You have an elite player coming over in Ivan Demidov, so you have the young core, their young prospects making that movement, just like we saw with the Ottawa Senators with names like Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle. the Maple Leafs with Matthews, Marner, Nylander, like every other team right now, even Anaheim with that youth movement with, Leo Carlson, Cutter Gauthier, and Olin Zellweger right now. So you're seeing teams make those steps, and Montreal is just one of those teams that we could add to that list right now with the play of Demidov. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's always great to have score in your first NHL game, not to mention at home in front of the fans too in Montreal. So I mean, that's going to be something he's going to remember for a long time. And too bad the Canadiens couldn't clinch the playoff spot on that. That his goal made it 2-0, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they unfortunately lost in the shootout. Personally, I would have put Demidov in the shootout, but I mean, they went with their other guys. It's understandable, but I would have liked to see that. I mean, and maybe he would have scored. Who knows? Dayton, what did you think about Demidov's debut?
I thought it was classic Demidov. I spent a lot of time looking at his pre-draft stuff because I wrote his prospect profile last year. He is a highly dynamic puck-moving forward. He has a great shot. He is so deceptive. And then you get to see just like a little bit of that with his goal. He picks up the puck and then just puts on this quick little move, beats the goalie. Like, it's fantastic. That is Demidov to a T. Mm. And then you mentioned that he got caught, not back checking. Also Demidov. Like, he needs to work on his defensive awareness, and that's been a concern. He didn't find success in the KHL for one of those reasons, right? He wasn't quite as engaged. He was pushed off the puck a little bit. He tried to do stuff like that, but he didn't have enough ice time, and he didn't have enough support. In Montreal, he will. And so you're going to see a lot more of his strengths. And I hope that they give him the time to, work out some of those inconsistencies and his, all-around game. And this is kind of what we expected as well, right? It's he's going to come out guns blazing. The Montreal Canadiens are a fun team right now. They've got a lot of young, great talent. But next year's going to be a little bit tougher, a little bit longer of a season, and there's going to be some mistakes. And so, take it day by day. This is the guy that you've got, though. He's so good. You're going to have a lot of fun watching him for a long time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, maybe not surprising that he comes out and does it in his first NHL game. And yeah, it was fun. And I mean, the Canadiens still have a real good chance of making the playoffs. There's still some up in the air, I guess. The Blue Jackets still have to win all their games in regulation for them to actually take over their spot. So most likely they'll be making it, and we'll see Demidov in the playoffs, but there is that outside chance that they may not as well. So we'll find out in the next few days here. All right, speaking of playoffs and speaking of exciting players and plays, we're going to talk about some standouts just in this past week. And I don't know who wants to go because we're probably all going to say the same thing. Peter, what was the big thing about this past week? In that it was in the WHL, and we all know who we're going to talk about.
Yeah, some kid by the name of Gavin McKenna. I mean, just pulled off one of the most unreal goals that we have seen to date this season. I mean, possible goal of the year, and he's not even in the NHL at this point. If we're going to encompass all leagues, this has to be up there as like top 5 goals of the year. The little shake and bake, the little deke, and just wiring it from halfway out from the net. It was just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, that's just Gavin McKenna at his best. And I think we have his new nickname right now, Wizardry from the Wizard from Whitehorse. I mean, that was on the call right there. The PA announcer absolutely said it. And that's basically perfect right now. I mean, what can you say about this kid at this point? He's otherworldly. He's elite. He's dynamic. What he's doing right now is just basically generational at this point. And I know we've already talked about that with, Connor Bedard, but Gavin McKenna is on that next level, and it just so happens that he is his cousin. So, I mean, it's fitting, right? That a generational talent player like Bedard is being followed by a generational talent cousin in Gavin McKenna right now. So, Yeah, I mean, next year is going to be really, really fun, and whoever's going to be at the bottom is going to fight hard for that tank and for that lottery spot because, man, this kid is going to change a franchise for the good.
Yes. Dayton, yeah, I know you probably want to add to it. You've watched him quite a bit in the WHL. We've talked about him a lot. What'd you think about that goal?
Oh, it was incredible. I haven't seen something like that since I was watching Bedard in the dub. He's doing things that shouldn't be possible at the speed that everyone else is doing normal things. He's able to think things so quickly, and he made that quick little move. And I had to, like, my wife's not a hockey fan, but I had to show it to her. It's like, this is nuts. You have to see it. I think when I first saw it, I verbally said, "What?" And like, I don't react like that. That's not me. No, it was crazy. Definitely a fantastic player, and next year's draft is going to be very interesting to see who ends up with that top pick, because it looks like he's pretty much got it already. Stuff can change.
Who knows?
I mean, after doing something like that.
I feel he's probably the first overall pick. I don't know. The next guy's going to have to do something pretty special to usurp him. We've been talking about him for 3 years now. So
who would be next right now? Would it be like Viggo Bjork?
I mean, that's the big question mark. Who's going to follow up after him? I think it's at this point Ivar Stenberg and Viggo Bjork at this point. One of the two. But then you also got Ryan Rubik, you got Ethan Belchess, you have Keaton Verhoff. You have a lot of other great talent that could push for this second spot, but who knows at this point?
And McKenna's got a pretty big lead, I think, on those guys, for sure. Any other standouts we want to talk about, Dayton? Anyone else that's really stood out in this past week?
Sure. I'll pick out a few guys from the WHL since that's my wheelhouse. I've been really impressed with Cole Reshny and Braden Coots, two guys I've tried to watch a little bit of. Braden Coots, unfortunately, did get eliminated with the Seattle Thunderbirds falling to the Everett Silvertips. But he's continuously is just a guy who makes things happen around him. He is a strong player who will get into the corners. He will try to move the puck as much as he can. He doesn't have the highest offensive upside, but he's always doing something. And it was a big reason why they were able to stay so close to the league-leading Silvertips. He had such a presence, and when they were doing well, it's like, oh yeah, there he is on the ice. He just always was there. Cole Reshny was pretty much doing the same thing with Victoria, but he's got such a higher offensive upside. He's got 16 points in 7 games right now. 6 of those are goals. And pretty much when Victoria was thriving and succeeding, Reshny was coordinating it. He has a really, really good presence, a really, really good mind for seeing the play develop. I saw him do some things on the live streams that they're now offering for the WHL playoffs that really made me stop and think, like, this guy's an underrated prospect. And I wasn't of that mind during the season. I thought maybe a little bit overrated, maybe. But I've come completely full circle. He definitely deserves to be a first round pick. And if you ask me, maybe top 20, maybe top 15. He is fantastic.
Yeah, I think he's definitely increased his stock over this last few weeks in the playoffs here. So we'll see where he falls, and we'll may talk about him in our next discussion too. Peter, what about you? Anyone else you want to mention?
Yeah, I'm going to highlight Portland Winterhawks defender Tyson Jugnoff, drafted 4th round by the Seattle Kraken in 2022. Taking big leaps later on in his career in the WHL. And, he's had like 4 multi-point games against Prince George in the first round. And now he's already at 2 points in 2 games against Everett, their 3rd game going tonight when we record. So, just seeing that steady progression over his career, You know, he has 41 points last season and he went up to 89 this season, and he's becoming another big time playoff producer right now, matching the 16 that he had last year. He's already at 18. So big sense of what I'm seeing with him as like, you know, a very strong mobile puck moving defender. You know, he's already got 15 assists, looking very good right now for the Portland Winterhawks. And the other one is Prince Albert Raider defender, Lukas Dragicevic. And, you know, it was a little rough on him in his draft year. He had the offensive power, but the defensive game was still a work in progress. Still trying to work on that right now, but he's looking very good in the postseason right now with 13 points in 9 playoff games. Even had a 4-point game against Edmonton in their series clinching game, you know, against the Edmonton Oil Kings. He goal and 3 assists. That's what you want to see from a guy like that. Looking very steady. Again, the puck mobility and movement is there. It's absolutely phenomenal. They're up against Medicine Hat right now, as we mentioned, aforementioned Gavin McKenna. Going to be tough to try and beat them, but really liked what I've seen so far in these WHL playoffs from him.
For sure. I mean, there's lots of stuff. I mean, the playoffs, I like watching these play because you see these prospects step up their games, and you see their ability, and sometimes in the playoffs are a big deal, and you like seeing these guys step up and perform here too. I'll mention Liam Greentree quickly because he had a phenomenal season, and he's having a phenomenal playoffs as well. Has 14 goals already and had a 5-goal game and as well. So I mean, he's lighting it up along with Ilya Protas. I mean, that's the dynamic duo right there for the Windsor Spitfires, and they're tied with points leading the way. So I mean, and Noah Morneau is right there too with 16 points. So Spitfires are firing. They're doing pretty well to start the playoffs here, and Morneau has 11 goals. So yeah, they've certainly turned. I mean, we know how they turned their season around, but their playoffs are looking pretty good as well so far. We'll see how far they go. All right, let's move to our draft talk and talk about the final rankings that were released by NHL Central Scouting this morning. And these are the ones that, of course, are the final and no more changes. So, Peter, I'll start with you. We'll start with the North American list and talk about some risers. There were some quite a few different ones here. Which ones do you want to highlight?
I'm just going to take a moment to note Jake O'Brien being number 4. I mean, that strong push down the stretch for the Brantford Bulldogs and the push for, you know, Nick Lardis to get 70 goals. He played a big factor in that, and his playmaking is just unbelievable at this point. So, you know, kudos on him for getting the recognition and moving up to be within that top 10 range, because that's absolutely going to make a very team happy with his work ethic, smarts, two-way play, and all that. You know, yeah, there are a couple names that really stood out for me, more particularly in the later rounds as well. Owen Griffin from the Oshawa Generals. I know I talked about him last week about the impressive showing that he had for the Generals. And I said that, you know, based on his play from that OHL Connor McDavid top prospects game throughout the rest of the season, and the fact that he got that, you know, bump up in the lineup and was very productive, I thought that he was going to move up in the standings, and it was not going to be low, closer to 200 overall. He moved up to 70th, and that's a really great sign to see from him based on his overall play. Very quiet with his skill set. He's not going to wow you, but he's very detail oriented. He's very smart. He's very sound positionally, and 51 points in 62 games is impressive considering that Oshawa is very, very stacked up front with the names that they have on their roster. So again, kind of like Kieran Walton last year, where maybe he had the smarts and he had the potential. Basically, he was pushed down the roster because of the fact that he was on a deep team. Same thing with Griffin right now, and his play is starting to run away with it right now. So very happy to see him get bumped up. And in terms of another surprise too, Hayden Papanikis. I think he was, I believe, later, a little bit further down the list. I think he was around the 60, 70 range in the last rankings. Can't remember for certain where. I'm going to try and search that up right now. Hopefully it's still there on his page. Believe he was at 48 before, bumped up another 10 spots to 38. So the potential is there for him, and the powerful shot that he has, the deceptiveness that he has, the power that he brings. He's already got great size. Really what I was keeping an eye on him down the second stretch or down this stretch of play. Wanted to see a little bit more from him, and I came away impressed that I put him in my March rankings. He was in that 80 range. And I think that's a great spot for him because he may have bumped himself up to, instead of being a mid to late third, fourth rounder, he's now possibly top of the third, possibly pushing second. Who knows? Want to see a little bit more from him, but I really liked what his play so far to this point. So those two guys, Griffin and Papanikis, deserved that recognition and getting bumped up in the North American rankings.
Sure. Dayton, what about you? Any notable risers that you saw in this final rankings here?
Yeah. Jake O'Brien, that's a pretty good jump from him, for him. He went from 8th to 4th. Pretty solid. Kashawn Aitchison, he had a good jump, 15 to 9. I know we've been talking about him. He's pretty great. Who else? A lot of OHL guys I noticed taking some good jumps up. It wasn't until you get into the later rounds or the later picks, I guess, that you start seeing some WHL guys jump up. I lost his name here. Where is it? Oh my goodness. I remember his last name, but I can't remember his first name. Miller on Portland. Where'd he go? Ryan Miller. Ryan Miller is a guy who was putting up some pretty good numbers with Portland. And they are currently playing the Everett Silvertips in the playoffs. Not doing so good against them because Everett is very good. But Miller has been a very solid part of that team. He went from 118 to 60. So pretty sizable jump for him. That's probably the one that I noticed the most take a big jump. The rest of the ones I was watching, they were pretty static. And we'll maybe mention those guys in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'll mention one guy, but he's not a riser, so I will not do that. Let's move to the other side, and that is the international list. And Dayton, did you see anyone on the international side? I know these ones are always ones that are a little out of our wheelhouse a little bit, but did you see anyone notable that rose there?
Well, I mean, there was a change of first, right? Anton Frondell takes over first place, usurping Victor Eklund. I feel like it's almost a coin toss between some of those guys. Frondell is just offering a different skill set. And so if you want a bit of a bigger center who plays more of that really well-defined two-way game, who has a very good offensive sense, Frondell's your guy. You want guys, or you want somebody who's a bit more dynamic, a bit more fast, speed focused, then you're going to go Victor Eklund. I think it's really, really close between those two guys. I don't know if you can say the same on the North American side. Schaefer still has a pretty solid grip on the top place there. But as for a big riser, Alexander Zharkovsky seems to be the one to take a massive jump. He was not ranked in the midterm ranking. He is 5th now. And he first jumped onto my radar when I was reading through I think it was Smart Scouting. Sorry, just lost my train of thought there. And he is maybe the top Russian prospect this year. Not likely a first round pick, but he has some of the best stats that you've seen in a minute here. 50 points in 45 games, 24 goals. He's got some really, really good hands. And while I haven't dived into a lot of his game tape yet, he is somebody definitely to keep an eye out for. He is following in those footsteps of Demidov and Michkov. Now, I'm not comparing him to them, but he is that offensive skill player who's going to be coming into the draft and trying to catch a few eyes who want to add one of those dynamic forwards to their group.
Yeah, jumping up to 5 from being unranked. That's a pretty massive jump for sure. So, yeah, definitely going to keep an eye on him. Peter, anyone else you want to mention as a riser from the international side?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Malte Vass from Farjestad Junior in the J20 Nacional. I really started to get a little bit more acquainted with him after watching a little bit of some little plays here and there, and I was impressed with the overall skill set. He's got the size, the defensive game, IQ, all of that. He's really good on both sides of the puck. Very strong two-way game. Not the quickest. Needs to get a little bit stronger, but I do feel like a lot of potential is there for him. And you know how teams love the puck moving abilities from defenders on the back end. And already right now, he's already at 6'1", 184 pounds. So he's got the size on the back end where, there's a lot of untapped potential. There's a lot of upside with his game right there. And I believe he was 36 in the last rankings, and he got bumped up to the top 20. That's a pretty big jump right there. I'm going to be diving into his game a little bit more because I am going to be writing his profile, and hopefully I get to see a little bit more of that at the U18s coming up. So this is a good opportunity for me to see the hype surrounding Malte Vass and the potential that he has, because I've from what I've seen, it's a really good progress and a good step for him to boost his stock right now. So really looking forward to seeing what he's going to bring to the table at that tournament.
Yeah, the under 18s are coming up, and that's again another opportunity for these players to get increase their stock in a lot of scouts' minds, and get to see a bit more viewings, especially the international side, which is great. A lot of the international top prospects play in the under 18s, so we'll see how that all goes. We'll preview that coming up soon as well. All right, let's move to the fallers, and of course, people rise up, we got the fallers as well. Dayton, anyone you want to mention we're a bit of a notable faller from this list here?
Yeah, like I said, I've been trying to pay attention to the WHL guys, and a couple of them took a dip, and I'm not sure 100% why. It does confuse me a little bit. Roger McQueen dropped from 5th to 8th. That's likely due to his injuries. He hasn't been able to stay healthy at the end of the season. Came back, looked decent, but I believe I think he got injured again, didn't he? I'm blanking a little bit on that, but yeah, just as really struggling with some of that stuff. He has great talent. He's got the size and skill that I think would make a really solid top 6, maybe first line center, but you got to stay healthy for that. Lyndon Lakovic, he took a dip, 12 to 14. And maybe just other guys were sneaking up ahead of him. I don't know if that is fully deserved, though. He's so dynamic. I really like Lakovic. And I would snag him within a top 15 pick easy. So I don't know if he should have taken a dip. Jackson Smith, he's another guy, 9 to 13. These are just some of the ones that I noticed initially. I really like Smith's skating. He is a very, very smooth skater. Really reminds me of someone like Tanner Mollendijk, who I've been able to watch a lot with him being in Saskatoon until he joined Medicine Hat. I think there are some maybe hockey sense concerns that they might have. And that's why he wasn't able to keep his higher spot. I think he'll still be a solid top 4 defenseman, but whether he is a guaranteed top pair is maybe a bit of more of a question now.
Sure. I mean, when you see a lot of the OHL guys rose up, of course, some other guys have to drop. So maybe that's the case too. Yeah. But I mean, there's maybe some reasons for it. I know Cameron Schmidt dropped to 43 from 30. I mean, that's a sizable drop when it gets to double digits. It's kind of disconcerting. He had we all talked about his drop off from the beginning of the season. It looked like he was going to easily hit 50 goals. He still ended up with 40, but he was on pace, I think, for like 60 at one point at the beginning of the season, and then started, I think it was January, where he just went dry. I mean, he couldn't score. And then, the playoffs, he had a pretty good playoff before they were eliminated. So, maybe that is kind of putting some concerns in people's minds that his production dropped so much. And of course, his size is always going to be a thing that people are going to talk about. Yeah. So, I still see him as a first-round pick. Unfortunately, Central Scouting does not. They think he's a second rounder. So, we'll see where he kind of falls. I kind of think he might drop into the second round, just like all these other smaller guys have. And, then whoever gets him is still going to get a good player. But
pass on him on your own risk.
Yeah,
he was their best player in the playoffs. There was no question about that. Vancouver just didn't have the team to compete with Victoria, I believe. Yeah. No, Spokane.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Victoria was Tri-City. That's right.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll throw in one guy who is not WHL. And hopefully I don't steal this from you, Peter, but I did write his profile, so I think I have dibs. Ivan Demidov.
Yep. Nope.
No? Okay.
Nope. Yeah, I got someone else in mind. So
he was third in the midterm ranking, which maybe a little high, but he's a guy who had a ton of skill in the KHL, or I think maybe NHL that he was playing mostly. Showed off some really, really high-end stuff and was considered to be one of the top prospects. He's 35th now. Mm-hmm. And a large part of that is, yes, other people have shown up more, but he has been kind of quiet when he moved to North America. He's now with Muskegon in the USHL and looked fine. But I watched some footage when I was preparing that profile, and he's not showing the same stuff that he was. He's showing a lot more of his problems. Mm-hmm. He doesn't play a very well-rounded two-way game. And a lot of the Russian prospects who come over here do struggle with that. But, when you see it before the draft, it's a little bit more concerning, if that makes sense. At least it is to me. So that was the biggest drop that I've found, or maybe most noticeable. Mm-hmm. There was a few others that were bigger, but Ryabkin, arguably not a first rounder anymore, which is kind of weird to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking about him. There was time was top 5, right?
Mm-hmm. So early on in the season.
Yeah, early on he was in the top 5 in a lot of people's minds, and now dropping to a potential early second round pick. That's pretty big, and I still think a team's going to get a pretty good player if they do draft him in the second round. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there are some concerns in his game that have kind of put him there. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. That's someone to watch for sure going forward. Peter, anyone for you? Who was your biggest faller in here?
Yeah, I have to agree with Ryabkin. Obviously, it's kind of like a buyer beware situation kind of thing. That's going to be one of those high risk prospects right now where you don't know who you're going to get. Are you going to get the same player that dominated the year before, or the player that struggled with inconsistencies, trying to stay in the lineup? Again, like Dayton said, a lot of good, there were some positives, but the negatives outweighed that, as opposed to, seeing the skill set and the upside that he brings. Cameron Schmidt, again, we all know why he dropped. He did go on a dry cold spell, but still 40 goals for his height and his size. It's still impressive. And the fact that he's going to be at the U18 tournaments, hopefully that is going to be his last, showcase to say, yeah, I'm not going to let this affect me. I'm still going to play my game, where it's always going to be hounding pucks, being an offensive dynamo, being a shooting threat every single time. But the one that really kind of surprised me, and I could kind of see it, but it's Luca Romano from the Kitchener Rangers. was 35th previously before, and he got bumped down to 48th. So now you're looking at a player that's, had that Energizer Bunny kind of mentality. He was always energetic, heavy on the forecheck, heavy shot. And now he's kind of taking that step back where he's just teetering on being a second rounder / third, maybe fourth at this point. Personally, I've seen quite a few viewings of him that I think that maybe it was just one of those stretches where it just didn't quite work out for him. But I could understand why the drop. He wasn't as noticeable as he was at the beginning of the season. Not like someone like Cameron Reid, who has been very consistent throughout. I just think that maybe, and I kind of think the carryover play from Jack Pridham kind of played a factor as well. Romano just didn't quite have that same offensive production, that same upside, the same intensity and consistency that he had at the beginning of the season. So I can understand why, but I'd still take him maybe not as low, but I still think he's a player worth taking a flyer in the mid-second because of what he could bring and what he has shown in the past. And again, the top prospects game, he was one of the better players out there. He was one of the better players in the first half of the season, just couldn't put it together in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, the consistency, I think, this is where it kind of separates the elite from the not elite. And these first round picks that are always talked about in the top 10, top 20, they're consistently good, and their offense stays around the same. So I mean, that's why they're kind of around here. So I'm not saying they're going to be bad players, but there is kind of that indication when they're not consistent in their point production. So we'll see. You guys can kind of turn that around moving forward. But yeah, the under 18s is going to be a big thing for Cameron Schmidt, I think, for all the players that are involved in it, because they can put their final stamp on maybe answering some questions that some scouts have. I know it is a short tournament, so you can't really completely erase anything, but it can kind of help, maybe quell some questions that some scouts have and teams have on the prospects here. All right, we'll finish off with the international list. And Peter, anyone from here that was a really big follower?
Again, like you kind of said from the beginning, the fallers is a little bit tougher, or the risers is a little bit tougher because of the international play. It really, trying to figure out. I mean, I guess maybe the big one isn't necessarily. I'm just going to pick Victor Eklund because of the fact that there was a little bit of that push from him, especially when Frondell wasn't playing well. Again, this isn't a big drop. It's really tough because I honestly accidentally deleted my previous list of where everyone was before, so I can't go back. That is a big mistake on my part. I'm not going to lie. But the push from Frondell to get back in that out one spot just shows that, centers always had that advantage over wingers. And, as good as Victor Eklund is, it's tough to find a centerman that has that potential that Frondell has. And I said at some point he would overtake that spot, and it just worked out for him. So yeah, again, I'm probably cheating here a little bit where it's not a big drop, but it's one where he had the potential. He had that top spot in his grasp, but Frondell had the better second half, just like Eklund had the better first. And it just basically showed at this point.
Yeah. I mean, falling from one you're going to two, but I mean, falling from the top spot's a pretty big deal, I think. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, he's still going to be a guy that's going to be drafted in the top 10, most likely. And two Swedish players that could be drafted in that top 10. And that's a difference from these past couple drafts, really, when kind of got a little bit of a lull, but the Swedes have come back strong, which, I mean, that's expected. Dayton, you have anyone that you're kind of saw that maybe fell?
Yeah. I'll pick another guy who, well, people may not have heard of, even though he was ranked within the top 10 of the international list, and that's Dmitry Isaev. So he is playing in the MHL, and he was 9th and now he's 21st. So again, a pretty significant drop. This is probably another Cameron Schmidt situation. Like he's only 5'9", 148, which is very small. He looks fine in the KHL, or sorry, the MHL. Maybe nothing special. It's tough to say because there are, it's limited from what we can get access here of Russian junior footage. But from the stuff I've seen, like he looks fine. But Central Scouting doesn't like little guys. They've proven that again and again and again. They love the big guys. I would argue that's why Radim Mrtka is the top-ranked WHL player. Not personally, I don't think. I would honestly take 10 guys before I'd take Mrtka. But that's maybe for another thing. Yeah. I got some concerns with his game. And he rose on the regular list. But Dmitry Asayev takes a dip because he is 5'9" and probably won't get his name called until 4th, 5th round. It's the international list is weird.
Yeah. I'll mention, I don't know if he fell or anything, but just one thing is there's another Pedersen in there. And they
big riser.
Yeah. He would be part of the risers, right? So, the Canucks, I wouldn't be surprised if they have their eye on him. Liam Pedersen is 28th on this list, another defenseman. Already have Elias Pettersson in the system and playing NHL games right now. So go for another Pettersson, which 6'2", 170, pretty good, decent size. Might have to do his prospect profile just as to see. But I'll keep an eye on the Petterssons because it seems like the Canucks are cornering the market on him. All right. Well, that's the final rankings for NHL Central Scouting. Lots of good stuff there. So check that out. And of course, all of our prospect profiles that are live on the website now. I don't know where we are at with numbers. I know we're over 50.
We are now over 60 profiles.
There we go. So we are running along. We're going. And make sure checking out all those profiles. And as we keep releasing them, I'm going to have Cameron Schmidt's out soon. I might wait until after the under 18s to get some extra stuff on him. But yeah, he's a guy I'm going to be keeping a watch on to see some more stuff on him. But draft is coming up fast. We're about, what are we in? We're in April. So a little over 2 months. And we'll be talking about who is drafted rather than who will be drafted. But lots of stuff to go till then. And so all of our coverage at thehawkridge.com, the profiles, the features will be coming out as well. And all of our stuff, all the videos will be coming out too. So thanks, Peter. Thanks, Dayton, for coming on and talking prospects as always. We'll be back next week with another episode of Prospect Corner. We'll see you then.